We live from the boxing section, you dusty ass niggas.
Out the roots, he let the beats build, bitch. And we never switch. Even if I'm rich, I'll be broke like I'm Mitch. Niggas talking down, but that's headed in the wrong direction. But I knock that shit out like the boxing section. Cause they can't touch what they can't see. All I gotta do is be the same me. All I gotta do is keep it G. Always be the same me. While I'm solid, boy, they can't change me. No.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, man? What's going on? We live from the boxing section tonight. How's everybody feeling? I know everybody trying to come down from that great weekend of boxing. We got the great weekend of fights, and what's going to be the fallout? I think we've all discussed how we felt and our points of view from the fights that happened this weekend. But what's going to be the fallout? What dominoes are going to fall next in these divisions? One of my divisions that I'm going to be watching is the super lightweight division, 140-pound division, and seeing where they go from here. You got a lot of players in that division, and should Devin Haney choose to move up, it gets a lot more interesting after that. What's going to happen at the welterweight division? Will it stall out? We all know the fight that we're waiting on. But what happens to the other guys while we wait for that fight? What happens to a Jaron Ennis or a Rashidi Ellis? Or I know he might not be a fan favorite, but what happens to a Keith Thurman, and even what happens to a Virgil Ortiz? I mean, what's going to happen after January when Jamal Charlo, in my opinion, completely smashes Tim Tszyu? What happens then if he decides to move up? Does that reopen the door for a Brian Castano to maybe get another title shot? Maybe the Brian Castano and Tim Tszyu match that was supposed to happen, but he stepped aside to let Undisputed happen. Maybe that fight happens. Maybe we get Fundora and Tony Harrison. Who knows at this point, man? It's a lot of unanswered questions, but that's where I am with where we are in boxing right now. What's going to happen next? I think a lot of people were very impressed with Caleb Plant's knockout of Anthony Dirrell last weekend. But y'all all know the fight we got to see now. We got to see that David Benavidez and Caleb Plant fight. Like, that fight has to happen. I think that fight is too easy to make. It was just announced today, or I've been seeing where it was announced today, that Uzcategui and David Benavidez are finalizing the deal. Personally, I wouldn't go 10 feet. I wouldn't go within 10 feet of Uzcategui. Anytime a fighter tests positive for steroids like that, personally, I wouldn't put my fighter in there with him, because I don't think, there's no telling how long he's been doing it. Now, that's not saying Uzcategui is a world beater now, but personally, I wouldn't put my fighter in there with somebody who's tested positive for like that, because he tested positive for a few different substances, I believe. And that fight was supposed to happen last year or earlier this year, if I remember correctly. So I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to join. But yeah, man, I'm just interested in seeing the fallout from all this stuff, man. I think it could lead to some great fights. Now, will boxing get in its own way and not allow these fights to happen? History has shown us that may be the case, or they might just, realize the fans are not necessarily as patient as they used to be. And they didn't used to have to be that patient because everybody fought each other. Now, there's reasons as to why that happened, but everybody fought each other. And with social media now, you're able to seem as if you're one way when really you're another way. to quote quote my guy, what's his name from The Wire, Marlo Stanfield. You think it's one way, but it's the other way. These guys might get on the internet and do all that woofing, but behind scenes, they want special stipulations in the contract. And if they can't have their special stipulations in the contract, they don't want it at all. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get it in. Man, we got to pay these bills real quick with a quick word from our sponsors. Oh man, what's gonna be the fallout with this guy as well? Getting a quick word from our sponsors. Oh man, we're so wrong. But anywho, yeah, man, what's gonna be the fallout with Conor Benn? Personally, I wouldn't have my fighter in there with him because there's no telling how long he's been taking it. This is just the first time he got caught, and he's one of the guys that I commented about earlier that wants the special stipulations in their contract. They want you to be at this weight. You can't get back up to this weight. We want the ring to be this small, and we want your gloves to be this big. And why you got to do all that, man? What's going on, brother? What's going on?
What's up, dog? You trying to hold this bitch down like yourself?
Yeah, man. I'm just, what's going on, Gump 88? Yeah, you already know what time it is, man. I wouldn't, what's understood ain't got to be said, brother. We know who the best team in the league is. Salute. But yeah, man, I heard y'all speaking earlier, man. I had to take a couple phone calls. I wasn't able to get back on the show.
On what?
And I was getting to that about Devin Haney and, in different situations, man. I'm just interested to see where everybody goes from here. You know what I mean? We all, what happened? I shouldn't have plugged my phone up.
No, you good, you good.
I plugged my phone up to my laptop and then went to another screen. But anywho, I'm just interested to see what happens next, man. And the question that I was trying to get out, I don't know if I really made myself clear. Like, I wouldn't, if Devin Haney decided to move up and fight an Arnold Barboza Jr., I'm cool with that. Like, a lot of people still want to see him fight Lomachenko. I wouldn't mind him seeing Lomachenko. If the man said he comfortable making the weight, like, let him keep making the weight. Personally, I think you've accomplished everything at 135. I mean, it's like he said, to me, there's big fights at 135 for him. But at the same time, I think there's big fights for him at 140. Like, you got a chance at a program as the undisputed champion right now. You have your pick of the litter pretty much. And you're an upcoming free agent. So do you want to see what happens over there at PBC with what's his name, Puello and Subriel Matias, and you got Gary Antoine Russell, Brandon Lee, even though Brandon Lee looked how he looked his last fight, which wasn't highly impressive to me. But you got different contenders at 140 pounds across different platforms, but the ones at top rank, man, how would Devin Haney look against Jose Ramirez? Y'all wouldn't watch that fight? You wouldn't watch the fight with him and Teofimo Lopez? I think that fight could happen. So he has a lot of options, man. It just doesn't have to be at 135. Max?
I was letting you get off. No, I think like the same thing, and that's why I said like when it comes to Loma, like I don't even think Loma's the best opponent he could fight within the two weight classes because I'm considering both, considering that he is so close. I mean, when we talked to Bill, way before the first Kambosos fight was made, they were already talking about moving up to 140. That's been about a whole year. So I don't think it can be called a duck or anything if he moves up because it's been something that was mentioned, and he had contractually had to rematch fucking Kambosos at 135 because if he moves up to 140, he has to vacate the belt. So, I mean, that's why I don't think the Loma fight. I don't know, bro. Me personally, if I'm Devin, I'm holding that grudge. You ain't getting a piece of this shit because you didn't let me get a piece of that shit when I had a chance, bro. Like, fuck that. Not you old and you need it because you lost and you on your comeback. Nah, I'm good. Suck my dick. I got other options.
So, but I will say this though: if he decides to go that way, I wouldn't call it a duck. Like you got a lot of people out here who would call it a duck. He's like, you've been saying you wanted Lomachenko for this long, and when the paths are clear, if Lomachenko wins his fight in 2 weeks, right? Well, really next week. It's next week. I think he fights on the 29th. Yeah, that's 29th. If he wins his fight next Saturday, you're looking at a highly possible fight with him. And that would be personal. What Lomachenko and Bob Arum did to him years ago was business. It was business. Now, that's a dark, dirty, shady business, but it was business. I think if Devin Haney did that, it would be personal. If he just decided to stay at 135 and not fight Lomachenko, it would completely be personal. Now, I'm not going to throw out the duck word, but that would be if he stayed and he fought a Gervonta Davis, which I believe we all believe that it's not going to happen. But if he stayed and fought a Shakur Stevenson, I don't see how anybody can say he ducked Lomachenko to get to Shakur. That's in my opinion, that's a step up at this current moment in their careers. But definitely if you move up in weight and you fight somebody within the top 5, that's not a duck for me. Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. Now, like I was just saying a few minutes ago, they just announced I just saw where David Benavidez and Uzcategui are they're in talks or have already signed the fight sometime in January, which is kind of news to me because I thought David Benavidez was going to be fighting sometime in November, December, and I think he expected to be fighting in November or December as well, but I don't know what happened with that. But here we are now. The man said he has a fight date in January, so here we are. I think everybody fully expects for him to just straight bash Uzcategui. So, God, man, that David Benavidez and Caleb Plant fight got to happen now, especially the way Caleb looked Saturday. My phone's so loud.
Now, I was talking mad shit about Caleb. He impressed me, bro. Like, he did his fucking thing, bro. That knockout was just crazy. I think that was the best knockout of the weekend, personally. I think as far as what was on the line.
Best knockout of the weekend.
Yes.
Wow.
Over Wilder's for fucking sure, for sure. I think just like, I think it's what I expected Bumgarner and Mayer to be. Like, the shit that they were talking, that Caleb Plant and Darrell were talking, they were fighting like it. Now, Darrell wasn't having much success, but he was trying to fight like it. Caleb was just too slick for him. But they were going at it. In the ring, they were chunking, they were talking shit to each other. They were doing the thing, and then the knockout was the icing on the cake. The knockout was the grand finale of the buildup of the whole thing, and that's why I liked it. When it came to the girls, they talked mad shit. They fought more in the fucking press conference and in the face-offs than they did in the fucking ring. Like, as far as Bumgarner and them, you already know the GOAT's the GOAT, baby, and I'll go down saying that forever. But I think, and on top of it, it's like Plant is, he say what you want, he still don't got power. You know what I'm saying? Like he had that was a good shot, but I mean, he don't got power like that. Just stop everybody like that. But it does make it now. It makes it intriguing because Benavidez didn't knock him out like that.
No, Benavidez just stopped it. They stopped it because of
the cut.
But the cut didn't come from a headbutt or anything. He opened his ass up.
In facts, and that's why he got the thing. But it's like, I mean, Benavidez is known as the power puncher. He didn't put him out cold like that. So now there's just a little bit more to the storyline. A little something I did, something you ain't do, and now you got Benavidez going to fight whoever fucking
Uzcategui. That's how I pronounce it. Uzcategui,
right? So it's like, Now it's like David pretty much has to knock him out to prove, okay, well, now I knocked out opponent you could have knocked out. And it builds that storyline because if he struggles with whatever, that bitch ass thing, whatever, he struggles with him, then it just makes Plant look better. Yeah, I mean, it kind of helps Plant stock a little bit. If Plant knocked out Darrell and you couldn't, and he had a better time with Uzaka, whatever, than Benavidez does, then it kind of starts muddying up the waters a little bit. You know, so I don't know, man. I think that really shook up some shit because if Plant would have just won by decision, slick boxing, can't touch him, inside, outside, beep, bop, boop, it's expected. We figured it. Darrell's past his prime. We knew like Darrell's probably only way of winning was knockout. It's just no one expected Plant to knock him out like that. Cold, bro.
I mean, flatlined.
Done. Like
Flatlined.
bro, he didn't get up for a while, bro. Like he didn't get up for a minute.
That's what was impressive about it. It wouldn't. I don't think anybody would have been, impressed if Caleb Plant just kind of boxed his face off for 12 rounds. But the simple fact that he iced him, and I had no problem with the celly afterwards. I had no problem with him burying him. Like you said what you said. I slept you. Now hold that. That's the risk you play when you go to trash talk. I have no problem with trash talk as long as you keep people's families out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, keep it between us. You know, say whatever you want to say about me, but keep people's families out of it, man. I'm gonna tell my family to stay out of it because I don't want them to. Now, if your wife say something to me, then oh man, I'm gonna respond. But I just don't. I don't like when the families get into it. But yeah, if your family members say y'all don't care if it's your brother, cousin, daddy, whoever, keep it between us, and that's where it'll stay. And that's pretty much where it stayed between them two. He's a bitch. He can't hit. It's crazy that he said he can't hit and iced you.
Yeah,
man.
And I mean, we all thought the same shit. You look at the dude's resume; less than half of his wins are knockouts. He's not really known to be the knockout guy. So like, it was almost like, I don't know, bro. It was almost like Polly. Yeah, like Polly getting a crazy knockout, bro.
Nah, I mean it wasn't that bad. I think half of Caleb Plant's wins are knockouts, man. I think he's got 11 knockouts in 22 fights or 23 fights or something like that.
Yeah. Now
so out of 22 wins, I think he's got 11 knockouts.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Clarissa. Clarissa ain't got no power. All right, she ain't got no power. She got 2 knockouts.
Kidding me?
No, she gave Savannah everything she had. Never wobbled her. Kind of got her reset a couple times, but never gave her a slight little bit of a stink leg. And she gave her everything, but she's still the fucking GOAT. And she is the GOAT, hands down, no question. She got the most accomplishments of pretty much any boxer ever, including men. But, it's a little easier to get them ladies' fights done. So she did her thing. But, bruh, 2 gold medals, 4-time undisputed, 3 different weight classes. Wait, 3, right?
No.
2.
3-time undisputed, 2 different weight classes.
2 different weight classes.
3-time unified champion. She was unified at super middleweight. That's the only division she didn't go undisputed in was super middleweight. So
it's like, and all that within 13 fights at 25 years old.
Within 13 fights. In my opinion, she has nothing left in boxing.
There's nobody
left for her.
None.
Unless she's gonna vacate all her belts and move down to 154 and have Jessica McCaskill come up and fight her there. There is nothing left for Clarissa to do in boxing. She has beaten everybody. She's beaten champions across 4 weight classes.
I think there's 3 fights possible for her out there. There's the Layla Ali comeback, which
that's not happening.
Yeah, but I'll pay for that. That'd be crazy if it ever happened, but it's not happening. There's that. There's the maybe Amanda Nunes crossover. You know what I'm saying? And there's Jake Paul.
Here you go. Here you go.
And I love my baby. I love the GOAT. I love her.
Here you go with that Jake Paul.
Yeah. But no, No, I think Clarissa was the best performance of the weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think Caleb was the most impressive, like something we didn't expect. I think he also had the best knockout. I think Haney was probably the most dominant performance. That was just damn near shutout again. Like,
That was a high price sparring match.
and you know he did his thing when Australia was cheering for him, bro, when he was done.
Right, because you can't deny that ass whooping.
Nope.
If you're a pure boxing fan and not just out here letting your biases take over, right? You cannot deny what you saw with Devin Haney on Saturday night. And God bless Devin. He tried his best to get George Kambosos out of there. I'm going to credit George Kambosos' toughness more so than I'm going to try to crap on Devin Haney's power. Because, God, he took some shots, man.
Yeah, he's
Devin Haney split him wide open on both sides of his face. I think the other one was like on top of the ear or something. I couldn't really hear it, man. I was like I said, I was watching all these fights at work Saturday, so I couldn't really hear the commentary. But I just saw where he had a gash over his eye. He had another cut on the other side of his head. I think Devin Haney got cut as well, but it wasn't as bad. But yeah, man, he split him wide open. Like it just around that 9th, 10th, and 11th round, man, I was like, God, somebody stop this, man. This is brutal. He's not, we've seen over 20 some rounds now. He's not gonna knock him out. He's not fast enough. He's not skilled enough to knock him out. So why are we still letting George Kambosos go out here and fight this man? It's over. Throw the towel in, man. He has no clear path to victory. Throw the towel in.
I mean, Kambosos got hurt, but I will say this though, like, I think the styles make fights. I think Kambosos would still be. He's not. He's not. He's a couple L's away from my gatekeeper. But since 135 is so thick, I think he could win. I think he's about 50-50 if you were to line him up against the rest of everyone else. I don't think he beats Tank. I think he makes a fun fight for Loma. I think he probably still loses, but I think it's probably a little closer, a little more entertaining. But I mean, I think he still beats some of the dudes in 135. I think I think him and Pitbull Cruz would be crazy. That would be crazy. Just those two styles going at each other. I think Ryo's out the picture now. Michelle Rivera looked pretty good, but I mean, he's supposed to. Who else he got up in that weight class, man? I mean, I think Rolly and Kambosos would be a great fight. Like, I don't know, man. I think Kambosos still lines up pretty good against good fights to some other people. He might end up being kind of the Sean Porter of that division. But Devin just did what Devin does, man. Oh shit, we lost DJ. It's just me. Dun, 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 dun. Race. Let's talk about it. Nah, hell nah. Nobody trying to hear that shit, bruh. But motherfucking Kyle, man, left us fucking hanging again tonight. God damn you. Fucking light skin. Jesus, man. Yo, man, I'm about to shit. Oh, man. I don't know, DJ. What we should do with this, dog. I don't think it's gonna last much longer. I'm not into talking to myself like solitary confinement. Ain't nobody in the chat on what happened to the homies. But
Yo, I'm trying to figure out what is happening. Laptop just sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, man, my laptop just crashed on me for some reason. Or it disconnected from the internet, which is the same thing. But yeah, we right back at it. Max, if you still out there, I'm back now. But yeah, man, it was great to see Devin put that work in, man. It was great to see that sparring session, which that's all I call it, man, because out of out of 24 rounds they had together, honestly, how many rounds do y'all really think Kambosos won? Maybe three out of 24 rounds, maybe three, maybe two. No more than three for sure. So I mean, that was a high price sparring session. I mean, Devin Haney was head and shoulders above him. He was faster than him. He beat him to the punch several times. I mean, he was just beating him to the punch all night in both fights. There was nothing he could do. Nothing. And that's what I was saying earlier. It gets to a point to where you gotta evaluate your fighter taking unnecessary damage at this point because they have no way to win. And it's up for the trainer to say that, but I think his father is his trainer. If his father's not his trainer, I know his father is in his corner. So it sometimes it's hard to make that call to tell you, son, look, hey, you ain't got it, man. He's beating you that bad. But yeah, shout out to Devin Haney, the undisputed champion. I'm looking forward to seeing what he got coming up next. Looking forward to seeing what the GOAT has coming up next in MMA. Because I think that should, in my opinion, I can't tell her what to do. I'm not on her inner circle. I've never met her in person, but in my opinion, I think she should retire from boxing. Go out on top, go out undefeated. There's nothing left for you to do other than to let these girls catch up to you. Because you got to think there's some girl training in her garage or in her local gym right now, watching Clarissa Shields, knowing that she's the best in the world. And if she's at or around that weight, Clarissa's still fairly young, hadn't had a lot of pro fights, but eventually she'll probably run into some of them. So, we'll see how that goes. But what I was gonna talk to Max about, man, we had a great weekend of boxing, had 3 big cards this weekend. But it's time to get back down to the nitty-gritty. This weekend, October 22nd, we have one of, if not the biggest, UFC cards this year and possibly going forward. 2 championship fights and a couple of top 10 fights that could set up championship fights in the future. Charles do Bronx Oliveira fights Islam Makhachev, who is very highly rated, but in my opinion, I think he's fought 1 top 10 opponent, and yet people will make you believe that he's this big bad boogeyman. And don't get me wrong, he's highly skilled in that Russian martial arts sambo. He's highly skilled. He's mauling all of his opponents. Even I think he's 21-1 or 20-1 with and I think he's on like a 10 or 11 fight win streak. And you let him tell it, nobody wants to fight him. Everybody's ducking him. You know the same stuff that goes on in boxing when you go on a win streak. Nobody wants to fight me. Everybody's ducking me. Which sometimes that can be the case, but this is MMA we talking about. This is the UFC we're talking about. They will put you in there with killers, or they will put you in there with somebody they believe is around your skill level. Sometimes they'll set you up with layups, but there are no real layups. We've seen veterans with 17 losses beat the hot shot prospect, and we've seen, the hot shot prospect with only 7 wins. He or she's probably only 7-0. Beat somebody who's a former champion. And it's a very, very crazy sport. But I just believe Charles do Bronx Oliveira. His last few opponents have all been former title challengers and interim champions. Or champions. And well, Michael Chandler was a champion in another promotion, but he was a champion. Knocked him out. Justin Gaethje, former interim champion, stopped him. Dustin Poirier stopped him. So it gets to a point to where what's next for him, and I think he absolutely wins this fight against Islam Makhachev this weekend. I think he strangles him around the third or fourth round. Once the bell rings, in my opinion, what I think is going to happen Saturday, once the bell rings for that fourth round, and Islam Makhachev realizes he can't maul everybody anymore, I wonder where his psyche's going to go then. I wonder when the oh shit is going to kick in. And I believe it'll kick in for Islam Makhachev long before it'll kick in with Charles Oliveira. Now that Charles Oliveira's Muay Thai has caught up with his world-class jiu-jitsu, because the kid is, well, I say a kid, but he's my age. Now that his world-class jiu-jitsu, that his hands have caught up with his world-class jiu-jitsu, he is one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet, regardless of weight class. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see that fight. The co-main event, and that's the main event is for the UFC Lightweight Championship. The co-main event is for the UFC Bantamweight Championship, which is 135 pounds in MMA. For those who don't know, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. For those of you who don't know, the Bantamweight Championship, I'm not gonna lie to you. I really want Aljamain Sterling to strangle this guy, TJ Dillashaw. I call him Dopashaw, because he was one of the most, a lot of times when you test positive, it also depends on what you tested positive for. But a positive test is a positive test. At the end of the day, everybody looks at it the same, but not all positive tests are created equal. This guy tested positive for EPO, which really is just something that does not allow you to get tired. It does not allow you to fatigue. So he's able to train harder, longer, faster, and be stronger while he's training. And, going into some of these fights, he's able to push his body to limits that these other fighters aren't able to push their bodies to, because he's on something. He's not getting tired when he probably should be, no matter what type of shape he's in. But I encourage everybody to go Google it, go look up, go do your research about that. And he's coming off. He's one fight removed from a 2-year PED suspension, a fight that arguably he lost, and he's getting a title shot strictly because I guess the UFC likes him. He's a 2-time UFC bantamweight champion. So he's getting this title shot, but I would definitely believe there were other people deserving. At the time before he lost his last fight and decided to retire after that, I felt like Jose Aldo deserved another title shot. He was actually on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. He's a legend of the game, arguably the best UFC featherweight ever, or arguably one of the best 145-pound fighters in MMA, period, ever. I felt like he should have gotten that shot. But, it is what it is, man. There is some politics in MMA as well, but not as bad. Another fight on that card. Aljamain Sterling coming off his split decision win against Petr Yan. And a lot of people see that as a controversial decision. I think the second and third rounds were clearly for Aljamain Sterling, and the fourth and fifth rounds were clear for Petr Yan, who's now the former champion. The only question that was in the only round that was in question was the first round. That was the only one. So it depends on how you look at that first round in that fight, determines on how you view the rest of the fight. But I thought Aljamain won the first round, so therefore I felt like Aljamain Sterling won the first 3 rounds easy. And So now Aljamain Sterling, being the UFC bantamweight champion, is fighting former 2-time champion TJ Dillashaw. There's an asterisk, a big asterisk on those two title runs. He quite possibly could have ruined Cody Garbrandt's career, because now all of a sudden, ever since TJ Dillashaw knocked out Cody Garbrandt to win the championship back, he can't take a punch anymore. So you think about it, well, this guy tested positive for PEDs, goes in here, knocks this same guy out twice, and then goes and tries to suck himself down to a lower weight class to fight again, and ends up getting knocked out his damn self, and then he tests positive for the EPO. So he comes back from that 2-year suspension. He got suspended in 2019, comes back in 2021, and has a fight against a top 5 guy in the division, in Corey Sandhagen, whom Aljamain Sterling had already strangled inside of 1 round. He has a fight with him, and it goes the distance, and he gets the split decision nod. Now, a lot of people felt like myself, felt like Sandhagen won that fight. And so TJ, and this was over a year ago, and TJ Dillashaw is allowed to sit and wait for a title shot. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is, and I really hope Aljamain Sterling, the reigning defending UFC bantamweight champion, strangles him come Saturday. The other fight on the card, everybody's favorite stoner, besides Snoop Dogg, of course. You got this kid, Sugar Sean O'Malley. I think he's 16 or 17-1 now. Very long. He's 5'11", fighting at 135 pounds. Think about that if that were boxing. 5'11", fighting at 135 pounds, and he's icing dudes. He, like I said, he has the 1 loss to the other top 5 guy in Marlon Chito Vera, who was able to stop him last year, and give him his first loss. But I think O'Malley's gotten better since then. His last fight against Pedro Munoz ended unceremoniously. I think it was an eye poke in the first round or second round, and ended up calling the fight a no contest. But he felt like he was doing pretty good in that fight, and that was supposed to be a step up fight for him, a measuring stick fight for him. So, I think he was doing some good things in there, but right now we won't know how that fight could have turned out, but because it ended so early. But he's fighting the guy I just spoke of, Petr Yan, who's now the former champion. And this is going to be a huge step-up fight for him. We'll see if he's really ready for title contention, like the UFC wants him to be. And we'll just go from there, man. I think if he wins this, his next fight will be against another top 5 guy, Merab Dvalishvili, who is also the training partner of Aljamain Sterling. So, yeah, that's the MMA card for this weekend. Man, y'all gotta check it out. I can't explain enough, man. There's some more fights on the card that I'll get into at a later date. But man, these fights are incredible. If anybody's out there want to join the panel, you can. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. It's probably gonna be a short show tonight. I think everybody's just kind of hanging out tonight. So, love y'all, man. Thank y'all for the people who did tune in and step into the chat. I appreciate you. We'll see y'all tomorrow night.
At the roots, he let the beats build, bitch, and we never switch. Even if I'm rich, I'll be broke like I'm Mitch. Niggas talking down, but that's headed in the wrong direction. But I knock that shit out like the boxing section, cause they can't touch what they can't see. All I gotta do is be the same me. All I gotta do is keep it G, always be the same me. While I'm solid, boy, they can't change me. No.